every athlete, every person, every human being has an opportunity. Some opportunities don't come when you want them. But if you're prepared, good opportunities can happen. Always be ready, because you never know when your number is gonna get called.
I'm not coming back.
EMIY Apparel. Encourage me. I'm young.
My name is Daniel Hodges. I am a police officer of the Metropolitan Police Department of Washington, D.C. Not a day has gone by where I don't think about what happened on January 6th. There's still people out there whitewashing the events of that day, lying about what happened.
So did Donald Trump lose the election? Not by the words that I would use.
Donald Trump has made it a focal point of his campaign.
They were there with love in their heart. That was an unbelievable, and it was a beautiful day.
Saying that his followers did nothing wrong, that they were treated unfairly, that they're political prisoners or hostages.
You see the spirit from the hostages, and that's what they are, is hostages.
I feel compelled to go out and tell people the truth about what happened.
13 hours, Capitol in breach.
They had all kinds of weaponry. A lot of equipment that you don't really need to listen to a politician speak in a park.
We're gonna run over you! Do you think your little t-shirt guns are gonna stop this crowd? No! We're going in that building! Take off your badges!
They made it clear that they wanted to harm, kidnap, or kill the people that we rightfully elected.
Our country has been under siege for a long time. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building.
He was told that they were heavily armed. They would not go through the metal detectors. And he said, I don't care, they're not here to hurt me. So he knew they were here to hurt someone. And then he told them to fight, and sent them to the Capitol.
You'll never take back our country with weakness. We fight like hell.
They had no proof that there was any foul play in the election. They just had the word of Donald Trump.
And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
We weren't just defending the building because it was a nice architecture. We were defending it because of the people inside, the congressional staff and elected leaders. And they assaulted us when we were just doing our jobs. We're not a mob rule country. We could not let them win. There were a couple dozen of us there trying to hold back, thousands and thousands of people. The momentum had shifted at that point, and I was getting pinned against the door frame, rather. They grabbed at the gas mask I was wearing the front of it and started pushing and pulling hard as if punching me in the face. Bleeding from the mouth and face and just beaten and bruised all over the body.
That was a day of love.
It definitely could have killed me. Yeah, so many of these people, they still believe that they were in the right, that they were doing a service for their country.
Calvin T. Mann, leading EMIY, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIY TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Good afternoon. With a special conversation today. on voting and families and information that as families you should know. My name is Kelvin, Dr. Kelvin, man. And welcome to EMIY, Put Your Family First podcast. Before we get started, make sure you pay attention to the dial-in number. You can call in, speak your piece. Make sure you do that when you come in, and you're clear and concise with this message. Heather, how are you today, Dr. Heather?
I'm good today. I'm excited about this conversation and some things I want to make sure that you have to arm yourself for the next days ahead.
Right, be prepared. Yes, being prepared is key. Brother Dave, Dr. Dave in the building.
How's it going? Yes. It's a blessing to be here. Good.
And so I want to jump right into it. By the end of this podcast, we'll be giving off, some links and some information for you to help you. And so to get into why it is important that this conversation go forth, right, is the reason why we started with the video, because it is a complete, solid reminder to you just how important voting is. And why is it so important, and why we must vote. So far already, there were 43 million votes already casted by ballots. 43 million. In that process, they are now trying to sabotage the voting process by burning mailboxes.
Ballot boxes. And we've seen in Oregon and Washington, right? We've seen somebody else try to do it here in Michigan. He's already been arrested and locked up for setting the mailbox on fire. The divisiveness is different because divisiveness puts me on one side and you on the other side. And if I'm on the side of the exaggeration, the lies, the manipulation, the whole nine, and I buy in, I become a bad mindset. Mm-hmm. I become, it doesn't, no matter what is said from the other side, what is proven, what is shown, I risk my entire family, my existence for this lie. Or these lies. Voting is something that we all should do, right? Another reason why I wanted to have this conversation was Project 2025. So in the research, Project 2025, some things have been implemented due to the fact that Donald Trump was able to select all the judges. Mm-hmm. Supreme Court judges.
And the Supreme Court judges, right? Mm-hmm. So in that process, in doing so, they've been able to navigate their way away from being prosecuted. So even the judges have bought in. Mm-hmm. So then there's these other judges who have not bought in, Democratic judges, right? And so I want to put some things in context for the viewer about reality. Because I think it's important that we have and share with families literally not just what's at stake, but the reality of it, things. Right? So before I get in, is there anything you want to add early? Because I know you got some things you want to share. So I want to get into this conversation so you can proceed.
I want to start because this is, for me, at the core of the decisions about what's happening in the time that we're facing in terms of the election, but it's much bigger than the election. This is a choice. And I want to make sure that people have an opportunity to look at this through a particular lens. I want you to consider that if your beliefs are for humanity, if your beliefs are religious, it could be Christianity, it could be any of those things. If that is the core of your beliefs,
then there are two things that you have to consider. What value is at the core of that belief? If it consists of hate, if it consists of violence, then you might want to rethink where your decision is coming from. Because if you are a follower of humanity, at the core of that is peace. At the core of that is respect. At the core of that is dignity. At the core of that is integrity. And if that is not at the core of what you're seeing, whatever candidate you're voting for, if that is not at the core of it, if humanity is not at the core of it, how can you look at your core values and your own beliefs? So I suggest that one party, whether you believe in the abortion, whether you believe in transgender, whether you believe in some of the items that are being promoted, right? Those items give you a choice. When you look at the other party's values, it's not about choice. It's about what has been dictated to you. It's about removing your choice and making the decision for you. And so I want you to really give deep thought about whether it is someone you respect, whether it's someone in authority. If the value doesn't line up with your core value, which for me and my belief system, I was told to love my neighbor. I was told to do unto others as you would have others do unto you. That's the core value and principle that I follow. And so if choice versus dictating or removing your choice is the issue, I choose choice. So the party that stands for having a choice and making your own decisions regardless of what that decision might be, that is the party for me that makes sense for me, that lines up with my values, that lines up with my beliefs. And so it's not just about a party. Each individual person is showing you who they are. You have to pay attention and give attention, not the excuse, but you have to give attention to who the person is. And so I think that's important as we make this decision about who we're going to put in office and who we're going to put in office in multiple places, which those are the things I want to talk about. I want to talk about before we are done today, that there are other positions that are key to our families, that are key to our communities, that we have to pay attention to. We have to be careful when all of the attention is going to one area. That means it leaves a whole nother space very vulnerable. That means the attention of the distraction is taking place here. But what other things are happening where you're not looking? And that's always a call to action for me.
Awesome. Dave?
Yeah, I think that when you consider who you're going to put in office, you should always keep in mind that there's more to meet the eye. And sometimes the great illusion is have you believing in one area that this is important, but leaving out 90% of the things that really would be the difference that makes a difference in your life. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we operate out of our emotions, and when we go to elect someone, we go by what is presented to us face value. But it requires for us to go into depth and understanding who we're putting in office, why we're putting them in office, and what they're going to do while they're in office. And if we don't take the time to do our due diligence, as the Bible will tell us steady, show ourselves who to right to divide the word of truth. Who is presenting truth? And when people are presenting the lies before your face and you denying the truth, then you cannot be upset with the outcome that you allowed to get into office. Some of the things we have seen that has happened has been blatantly in your face, even if you don't want to do your homework. You will see that this doesn't line up, as you said, Dr. Mann, that it's important to make sure that we acknowledge these people and their conduct while they hold office, because these conducts affect our core values. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, God gave us all the power of choice. He called it free will. But when someone want to take that free will from you, you have to question, is that the candidate you want in office?
So, perfect. And to really get off into this, so in understanding that, first of all, someone typed in the room about the Senate. So the senators, right? When you look at the senators that have been in place right? Even with them winning back some of the White House, because a lot of people don't understand this voting process. So too many people skip school. Too many people didn't take civics. Too many people, right? And then it was removed. And then when you see the red states and the blue states, right? So I'm going to get into that as well. But in the process, right, when I was talking about the senators were the ones that were setting up the bills for Project 2025. So they had already started moving through that process, right? In the meanwhile, a lot of people only sit back, don't pay attention, adult-like, and pay attention to all the times you're supposed to vote. So when it comes to midterms, all the little whining and stuff that come down every time it's time to vote, you miss the midterms, right? It was only a certain percentage. This is where the damage occurs. So the Republican Senate, right, when you get into that, has done nothing. The only thing they've done for the last 3.5, 4 years is deny, block, done nothing. Right? And so, in doing so, right, over here, oh man, you got the oh man's, this ain't right, because over here is a high level of incompetence, not a lot of reading, not a lot of literacy, right?
Absolutely.
So, hey, let's burn the books. Let's ban the books, right? They don't care nothing about their history, right? So let's ban the books. We don't need to tell that history no more. They don't even want it to be told. We don't want Black history. Why should we put that in the history books, right? So let's burn the books. Let's do all these things. But the very piece that really sets this thing apart, when you were talking about transgender and everything, he literally signed the bill.
Who is the he we're speaking to?
45. He signed the bill when he was in office for the very transgender piece to happen. So, you know, he couldn't play music nowhere else, so now you playing YMCA, which literally, where you say you detest these people, right? But in these processes, as we go forward, we'll see how things play out. So let's look at the voting populace for the LBGQT, right? Millions.
Oh yeah.
Right? And so people are asking the exact very thing, like where did this come from? How did they get this? When did they get that? Like, when did they pass? What's the mind? This country, right, has been in this area. We talked about this before, like in the 70s. You know, they called them transvestites, but back in the 70s, LBG, that was here.
In the 20s. It goes all the way back.
Early biblical days.
Right, swag was attached to homosexuality, right? So all of a sudden, right, because it's a talking point, this is really an issue. But if we go and really get into position and look inside of these corporations, let's look inside of the corporations, let's look inside of these different areas, that voting populace has been there fighting for position in the marketplace. Marriages, healthcare, jobs, how they spend their money, wealth, rich, right? So then when we start talking about people coming on and we talking about Diddy, that's been out here. Right? That's been out here. When did that happen? Well, it kind of happened back in the day, didn't it? It kind of started somewhere in Europe and Greece. And so since the beginning of time, homosexuality has been in play. So they developed a process, money, put resources, and went to get their position.
That's right.
So then all of a sudden, we don't have a position. We start yelling and screaming because we've been lying to the people about abortion. So we've been telling, this is the amazing part is the dominant culture has been saying, oh, well, the black women and abortion as a talking point. Oh, black people divorce. No, the numbers. white people and abortion. This is why y'all made all these moves. You going to jail for life, and this had nothing to do with black women. Black women has carried the Democratic Party to success every year. They wasn't over there in the Republican Party going, hey, we over here, we want to fight for women's rights, things like that. They went over there because they knew nothing is going to happen over there at all. So in that process, when you go look at the policies, the very thing that you say about this party, you were the one that set it up. So when you talk about divorce and broken homes and families, it was the Republicans. When you talk about redlining and moving and people having to change their zip codes, it was the Republicans. When you talk about can't get loans, the whole nine, the bankers, the people, Republicans. So when you start throwing your hands up, you say, wait a minute. Well, we didn't really have these issues in the 2020, right? We had a pandemic. Well, nothing moving. Everybody was in the house. If you were doing well during the pandemic, you got PPP money. And with the PPP money, a lot of people went to jail for lying about the PPP money. So then what happens when the first thing that happens when Biden and her take office is they shut down for-profit prisons. That's the first thing he signed was let's shut down for-profit prisons. And everybody jumped over to the red side, started putting their money in there like, oh, wait a minute, we not going to be able to eat off this? Right? No more. We shutting down for-profit prisons. No, you no longer go to jail for marijuana. So a lot of people was able to go home also because Trump signed something where if you was a prisoner or whatever, you get to go home. No need to be in prison, right? But that was put into play by women. Black lawyer, your girl, what's her name's ex-wife, the rapper, what's his name? Kanye West, ex-wife. Yeah.
Kim Kardashian.
The Kardashians. They were at the table at Bush, at Ronald Reagan helping them so guys could come home. There was a black woman behind her, making sure that the legal documentation and everything was done. She was just taking the face part. But the sister was getting it done. Right? So then when we get further into this process for families, here are 4 areas you're going to lose. Education. Education is going to, when they wipe out education, attack education, make education, they're separating you at the education level where you have told this system, as I was talking before we came on air, you as a culture, all these other minority and cultures have shown the dominant culture how to treat you. So your education, you've not valued education in so many ways, the whole nine. Hey man, we might as well stop that. But I'm going to tell you what the trick is behind that. The other thing is your civil rights will be in trouble. So the unions, we're going to snatch them unions away, which means now you're going to work to survive for your family. When we close them unions, you're going to take what we say. You're going to do what we say because we didn't took that union away from you. See? So that's another area. Civil rights going out the window. Right? Then we're going to snatch your vote. When we snatch your vote, right, for all the don't vote brothers, hold your vote. Yeah, well, you stuck with it now. You never got a chance because you was talking publicly about something that you never had a plan for. You just was talking hold your vote with no power strings to that whatsoever. Hold your vote is the dumbest I've seen on the internet because you have no power structure to hold your vote. You don't have 10 people. You just got dudes coming on like, man, I ain't voting, hold your vote, we don't get nothing. You're not even at the table to learn the process. And some of them, literally, because of voting, have jobs. You have a union job because of voting, but you don't vote. But you voted for that union contract, right? But you don't vote.
And what they fail to realize is that when you do nothing, you're still doing something.
You're still doing something, right? So that's a whole nother thing for families, right? And then that fourth dynamic, right? Now that your civil rights is gone, the unions are gone, the education is gone. That fourth thing, policing. Now, in policing, and you know laws, because we don't teach law to the culture, right? Because we took our civics already, so they don't know that the vice president don't have no power. They just talking about the last 4 years, and I'm talking about dudes that went to school with me and had 4 years of civic, talking about she ain't done nothing in the last 4 years. Like, you had this class, I sat in the class with you, like, you know better, right? But maybe you skipped that day, or you didn't value it. Or maybe it's directly connected to your ism.
I just want to add that the authority of the vice president is action. Their job is to help enact whatever laws are passed down, whatever acts are signed in by the president. It is to support those things happening and to show up in those spaces where the president and other higher officials are unable to be there. So they do have authority. They don't have the power to enact as the president does.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just want people to understand that whether you are signing in the law or just standing to make sure it's enacted, that's still a very important space that the vice president has. And to show up, and she shows up.
Okay, so policing. Number 4, policing. Stop and frisk is back on the table. Right, all these things.
Detaining.
Right, immunity. So you kill somebody, he's got immunity. So what stops him from killing anybody? Right? Because he's got immunity. I'm granting them full immunity. Right? Right? So this is what I really want. So because I have this now, I can execute at any point and just say anything. Right? So now your civil rights is gone. Now that don't have nothing to do with Constitution, the whole nine. I personally have watched people talk about the economy in terms of like how they were doing. I've watched people in terms of the economy talk about they got a check, didn't know the truth. So when they found out the truth, now they changed the position. That little check.
The stimulus checks.
The stimulus checks, right?
The stimulus is something.
Right? So the stimulus check. To no advantage to no one. Because then the corporations who now have raised the prices and did all these things against you, right? It's behind him. So when he bought, they interviewed dude, when he bought Twitter to help his Aryan brother. They are watching 2 rich dudes, the richest dude in America, in the world, stand on the same stage with a convicted felon. All of these boys got booty cases. All of them.
Okay, let's clarify what that means.
Sexual assault.
Okay. Let's call it sexual assault.
Sexual assault. Right? All of them.
Of the many charges.
Of
let's
the
be
many
clear.
charges.
Of the many
Right.
charges.
Of the many charges, right? So let's take and examine it from this perspective, and then I'll turn it over so you can say all those good things. So people can get that information. And I want to be clear about this because this is a real clarity for me. And it was in the research that it became clear. Blue states pay more taxes than red states. Blue states, blue cities, and those environments have pretty much been controlled by Republican Senates. In Michigan, every time that was a process, except for this time, this is the first time in a long time that the Senate in Michigan is Democratic with a Democratic governor. So we've been able to get education money, the whole nine. Literacy money that was sued. We've been able to get all these things done, right? When they had it, Flint water crisis. A lot of deaths. A lot of children became sick. A lot of children from the Flint water crisis, and he was able to walk away unscathed. He had Republican Senate. The damage that was done to those children. In 2016, he had an educational czar, a woman. The education took an even worse turn. So as we come forward, now we look at each one of these blue states. So the blue states pay more taxes than the red states. The red states borrow more money from the blue states and then say, look at your cities. So the government literally, when having Republican senates, red states borrowed money that the blue states made to help red states keep their welfare states. So red states have welfare money, where they have the highest level of welfare of white families. They go to blue states and say, well, the blue states, look at them, the inner city, we put the camera on. Remember, I told you, we had this conversation, the deception is real. I'll put your crime on the nightly news, their crime on 500 cops shows. And then we'll do Dateline, although red states have more murder than blue states. There's no cameras in the red states following the crime in the red states, other than when they get the final conviction, they go in with cameras and they make this a whole drama-filled story tonight on Dateline. Mm-hmm. And so this is where you see the murder that occurs within their culture. Mm-hmm. Right? These people, between the two parties, because both parties have major flaws. Both parties. For the people. Here comes someone to say, I'm here for all the people. Well, that's not good enough, right? So over here, they call this woman out her name. Over here, they call him out his name, which his name was earned from everything. Like, he literally was on a microphone and has sexually assaulted women and was able to get away with it. Mm-hmm. It was on microphone. Mm-hmm. I'm going to just grab him in the coochie. Mm-hmm. They love me. The married one. Yeah, I had the married one. She wanted to buy some furniture. Mm-hmm. The perversion is with that. There's a law on the table where they're trying to make pedophile an illness. Mm-hmm. Who you think behind that? The pedophiles. The party that's full of that, right? Mm-hmm. So when we get into politics and family have to determine, your families, you have to determine where you're going to put this vote. Mm-hmm. Me, I'm never putting my vote next to that type of character. Mm-hmm.
Lack of character.
The lack of character, that character.
The lack of integrity.
Integrity, the lies, the manipulation, the failure, the hate, right? Society has made him bigger than what he really is. He's not a military guy. He's not been successful. Like, we can do whatever we want to do, right? But the middle class has always carried America. The other flaw, and this is the last one for me, and then you can take it from there. During COVID, this is what did it for me, for sure, with him. During COVID, the supplies. Now, we just found out he was shipping supplies to Russia. We just found that out.
During COVID?
During COVID. Mm-hmm. That just came out. But it's when he opened up our airspace and let them fly in here to act like they were bringing supplies to us, and it turns out he was shipping supplies to them.
Deep.
He opened our airwaves while everything was standing still to Russia. We in a pandemic, so nothing's moving, which means I can't camouflage anything. This is why, and I don't have to be in the space, but if I was a general and I saw and heard that, I would have been livid from the word go as well. There's no way you're going to tell me you're going to open up our airspace during the time nothing is happening and allow them to fly in here. That's treason, dog. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that was my deal breaker to ever listen to him or any of those people. That was my deal breaker. Republicans have continuously denied families, people, growth. It has always been about tearing down. Mm-hmm. I've never seen them uplift nobody, from Ronald Reagan all the way down. Mm-hmm. And we've always had to come behind, just like Biden and them had to come behind to fix the economy, and now it's thriving globally. Mm-hmm. The only problem is that the corporations is on the side and raising terms. They just put out an article that they're going to lower prices to go back to 2016. Why? Because they're paying no taxes, so they're making stupid money. This is a policy, and the people are standing there going to vote for this. And so, for me, those are the areas on the reasoning why I have no interest in supporting that party. It is not the party of family, and it most definitely is not godly. It's not anything, and voting in itself may not be godly for either party, but there is no way you're going to convince me that party is godly. Your thing.
Well, I just wanted to make sure, I'm going to give you a resource. I think this is really important. And I like this resource because it talks about the different, not just the positions that are on the ballot this election, but it tells you what that position is, how long the term is, what the qualifications are, and what they actually do. And so the source I want to give to you is called www.vote411.org. So it's vote411.org. I think this is a great resource. So if you're looking for what's on the ballot, and what you do is you find the let me pull it up. You find the link on the site. Once you get there, you find the link that points to, it says plan your vote. And so once you get there, you select upcoming elections. Of course, you're going to select Tuesday, November 5th. And once you select that, it will give you, and you put in it'll ask you to put in your address, and then it'll give you, it says your races. So it lists out all of the races that you should have on your ballot. And so it lists from the presidency to the U.S. Senate, House, then it goes into the Michigan House, Board of Education. So all of these other items that are on your ballot is really important. So who is going to stand on the Michigan Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, for us it's Wayne County Circuit Court judges, all of these judges and all of these different areas, the prosecutor. So when you think about the things that you need to go to court for, and whether it's legal issues, whether it's criminal issues, regardless of that, you have to remember who you're standing before. You have to know their voting record. You need to know who voted for, against, and why. That's really important. And so when you use this tool, you can click on the person's name and their position, and it'll tell you some information about how they feel about certain issues because they've asked them questions. It will say a little bit about their voting history, what their beliefs are, their strong beliefs, and why. So if you have experience them in criminal cases, this is a good place to start. For probate, we have our probate judges that are up for re-election. It's really important when you know that if someone in your family passed away and you have to go through that process, you really want to look at somebody who is sympathetic to using the law, which is based on the Constitution. I'll make sure I say that using the law to make sure that they are sympathetic to your particular case. So, and you have to pick the right judges to be in the space for that. The ones that seem open, not the ones that are closed, because just like the role of presidency, you have those people also certainly in the position of judges. We have to be able to navigate how we're going to experience those people that we put in office.
You know that black males have the highest exoneration rate. They're exonerated from court cases. Over 80%.
Really?
Over 80%. We don't know that 62% of the black male population don't have children. So you're only faced with and absorbing the things, like she was saying. You're not paying attention to the other things, right? The prosecutor, you'd be like, man, this prosecutor. Well, when you go and look, guess who appointed that? So when you thought, you was casting your vote, I'm casting my vote for this guy, right? It's you're not paying attention. You're thinking that somehow that the president cares about you down here, and he doesn't.
Many of the people vote based on popularity. It's like branding. If you ask people these things that you're presenting of what the Senate, what the House does, yada yada, more than likely they don't have a clue. And unfortunately, that ignorance keeps you in the darkness. Knowledge enlightens you to be able to understand how to make a decision. See, once you place somebody in office and they don't do what you want, you say, I made a mistake. No, you made a decision out of ignorance. And it's so important that we expand our knowledge and our understanding of these people we put in position. What, as you said, you should do your due diligence, do your background check. And if you're real lazy, you can go on YouTube and go back and follow these people and what they presented. Right. What I've learned about the candidates, I went back to 75 when I started voting, is that if you go on YouTube and you look at the debates and their presentation, you will see it doesn't waver that much. They all make the same promises, tweak it here and there. But at the end of the day, when they say, well, we're going to lower gas, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, well, they're not be lying. If I lower gas this week and it goes back up next week, I didn't lie to you.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I did what I said I was going to do. But what we look for is people, when we talk about family, middle class, and even those coming along, we're talking about having people to have the right of something that is going to continue, that makes it reasonable to afford. If you drop gas at $2.99 a day, but you rise back up to $4.99, you didn't do me a favor. You see what I'm saying? We need something that we can maintain some kind of momentum to get our lives back in order. Housing. You turn around, it was in 2008, the market basically fell. You gave all these balloon payments to people who operated out of their wants and desires, not of their knowledge of long-term effect. And then when the bottom fell out, they couldn't hold their house. See, ignorance will put you in a bad position. We have to do our due diligence, but most people, unfortunately, are very lazy when it comes down to things of nature. Matter of fact, you don't discuss candidates and voting until it's up to this date. Well, you're a little late. You see what I'm saying? You're a little late there, because you should have been following the people long before who, let's go with the reasonable folks that we focus on, the president. You should have been following these candidates. You knew Trump was going to come back. You knew that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to run back for president. And as he started presenting something a year and a half ago, that's when you should have started been doing your due diligence. But most of the time, we're going to go in there, we're going to look down there, we probably don't even have these people's name, check. And even if they're Democrat, check. But did you check the core, what they were about? Did you take their value system? Did you see their consistency? And unfortunately, if we really pay attention, they're the only people that don't have to give a report card. Now, you will hear the speech from the governor, the mayor, and the president, but everybody else don't have to hold themselves. We don't hold them accountable, and they don't have to hold themselves accountable. So this is a disservice. And then they get the right to get a paycheck after they did their one term. But they want to take all your rights away. Right. So we're the majority. The people are the majority, but we don't operate that way.
Right.
So that's an unfortunate thing, because we can never make true progression if we don't stand up for what we really believe in.
Yeah, they give us the division, right? Division, right? So I'm gonna hand you this division. I'm gonna tell you, Monique make more money than Dave. Right?
She laughed.
And I'm gonna say, right? And I'm gonna give you this division because, right? Well, how did she get that job? And women voting against themselves because women don't get paid on the same level as men. This is the opportunity for you to even get paid. Women's maternal health. It makes no sense for you to support. But I do understand that racism is a big construct, and so I have to vote, in some cases, the way that my husband might vote, because he'll kill me. And these are real things. They're
real things.
They're real things that people are living with. The abuse is off the charts. There were the rape in 2019, as we talked about before, already. Since in banned cities, over 64,000 rape babies.
Yes, you need to say that again so people really understand the implications of where that came from.
In states where abortions have bans, they have came up with over 64,000 rape babies that they're carrying to term.
And there are issues of continued issues of black maternal health and reproductive injustice versus justice. Yeah. So I mean, there are a lot of implications for our families in this election. There are a lot of implications about even the injustices that have been done that can be corrected. That's a part of our voting process.
Right.
Who you put in office, especially that Court of Appeals, that's huge. That's where you appeal. That's where you take your appeal when something on the lower level was done unjustly. And so, I do want to just get back to this point. We were talking about the Constitution. There is the U.S. Constitution, and each state has its own constitution that is a subsidiary of the U.S. Constitution. And so those are other areas where we don't give a lot of attention to. When we find that they're like the giving authority to the state, putting the abortion issue right into the hands of the state versus it being a federal law. So there's some additional information that, as a resident of a state, as a resident of a county, and the resident of a city, that those laws also affect you. Those laws, it's another word for it.
Statutes. Those things also affect you. And if you don't know, and if you're not knowledgeable about it, we could break laws that you don't even know that you have broken. And ignorance is no excuse. You don't get a pass because you didn't know. And so we have to pay attention to what things are affecting our families. And so on our ballot are also proposals. We have to pay attention that those proposals are in the right standing for our families. So I want to make sure that you use the tool. I'm going to give it to you again. It's www.vote411.org. So vote411.org. Use the tool. Find out a little bit more about the candidates and about the roles that they play, even more about the proposals that are on the ballot. Learn a little bit more so you know it before you see it, and you can make an educated vote about what it is. And there's still time to ask questions. There's still time to ask questions. And it's one of the things that I like about this tool, because everybody is telling us to vote. Everybody is saying vote for this candidate or that candidate, but we don't have enough information.
outside of the presidency, there's the information drip is lower and less. That means you still have to pick up that. You still have to pick it up. You have to get your cup and put it up under that candidate and see what is being poured into that cup and how it's going to affect you. So I would suggest for our families to look at the election in terms of what is going to affect me most. So look at it from the bottom up versus the top down. So versus the presidency down, take a perspective where you look at what's happening locally first and then look at those people who are running for office, because that's going to affect you at this level most immediately versus what happens at the top. So work your way up your ballot, and before you go in, and if you've already cast your vote, it's okay. Thank you for voting. But for those of us who have not yet made your vote, start at the bottom of when you go to 411, you'll see that first. So start at the bottom of the list, the ones that are closest to you. Who's running for school board? School board presidents are, school board members are up for re-election. If you have issues with education, you might want to look at who you're putting either back on the school board or who's coming new to the school board. There's a lot of young people right now moving in place for the school board. I just want to, and I'm proud that they are taking this opportunity to put in new plans, new vision, breathe new life into our school board. So I just want to encourage you first to vote, but then secondly, vote from a point of education, vote from a point of really understanding what's at stake, and then cast your votes.
And definitely, even if you have already voted, you got the next 4 years coming. So this is where you can do your due diligence to prepare.
Well, you got the midterm. You got 2 years.
Well, even that, where you can prepare yourself to get the knowledge of your candidates in advance. So again, we wait to the last minute and then we get last minute results.
Right.
But you can start preparing now. As you mentioned about the website, the resource, you can utilize that resource in other areas just to be able to know who you get ready to put in office, midterm, full term. Because if we continue to operate it this way, we're going to continue to get the results we have.
Absolutely.
Dave, tell the people where they can get you.
You can reach me at FMAM David Patterson on Facebook. You can reach me at Yahoo DRome7 at yahoo.com. And my phone number is 608-343-0875.
Heather?
You can reach me at yourinspiredjourney.com. That's Your Inspired Journey. You can reach me by phone, which I prefer, over at DM at 313-759-7855. Give me a call.
You can reach me at calvintman.com. I remember when I was approached by them.
And them?
Yeah.
Turning Point USA.
Okay.
It was in a hidden agenda. This was before the 2020 voting process. And I was approached to be involved, right? Because I talk about family and family restoration. And so as soon as I started doing research, I come across that the person that they put in charge, they gave him like $14 million, right? Now, the background on this guy is beyond racist, but he was young. He was up and coming, right? So he's a young, up and coming racist. I can mask this, right? And so then they found the other people we use in the deep state, right? They had the Candace Owens, and people like that, right? And they go into these conversations, and they go into the conversations very heavy. It's very strategic. At one point, as I was doing the research, I came back and I said, so they're going to pay me. They're going to pay me to go be part of Turning Point USA. But I got to talk like that. And I got to talk about my people in that way. And so as the voting was coming down, you know, I was being slick, you know. All right, well, y'all going to put the money over there. Right? Yeah, we gonna Calvin, I'm telling you, you don't have nothing to worry about. We gonna make sure you get the money the whole night.
The money for what?
For Encourage Me, I'm Young.
Okay.
And I couldn't do it.
And I remember telling my wife, like, I cannot believe that they literally went out their way to come through this process to ask me when I have the information. And I told him I had the information, right? So he happens to be, friends with Mike Pence's wife and all of that. And I turned it down, right? I see so many people take money for anything, attention, position, the whole nine. And I said this to my wife, and you too, Dave. I've given enough. I don't think God would be disappointed in me if I walked away. But I know that the outcomes for the young people and the work that we do is important. But I just couldn't sell my soul. I couldn't imagine myself sitting on the other side talking for this and saying these things for these people. It just didn't sit well with me, right? The idea that you want me to talk like that and say these things and say what is not in play and racism don't exist and all these things. Oh man, you're a victim and play out of the card completely for money. And so what is at stake? Money. This is why people yelling and screaming, economy, the whole nine, but I'll jump on the bandwagon. I see so many people jump over there.
But again, as you're sharing this, and I know we're closing, we have to remember that the decisions that we make, the choices that we make today, have a direct impact on our generations to come.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It is imprinted on our DNA. And so this is a season where you have to stand for what you believe. This is that season when we learned about the separation of the wheat and the chaff. It's very, very thin lines. Some people need the money, but do you need that more than you need your soul? Mm-hmm. And it will eventually affect your family, whichever direction you choose to go.
I need that money.
Right. but I'm saying it's a real choice. So even people who have decided to sell drugs, right? They had to make a decision because they had to make a choice. And so we have to look at and give some grace and some understanding that people are trying to do the best they can with what they have. Mm-hmm. But you still have a choice about how your legacy, what is the legacy that you're going to leave?
That's decency. I get that.
So we have to be mindful that whatever choice you make, you're not making it just for you. You're making it for your family, and you're making it for future generations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to inject this real quick. One of the things that we don't think about is, in truth, in most cases, especially in America, I've traveled enough to say this, most of our needs can be met with less probably 30% of our income that we make. Unfortunately, most of our wants and desires consume 70% of our issues. In other words, we get in debt because we meet more wants and desires, not our basic needs. And so that's what puts people behind, because they create these images, again, subliminally, every day to bombard you with, you need this, but that's not a need, that's a want. And if people were taught financial literacy where they can understand how to utilize money, understand the power of money, then a great deal of the debt that we see and that we encounter probably wouldn't be happening. I've seen people who have taken $30,000 and had a $200,000 home because they knew how to use their money. Mm-hmm. So the importance of teaching how to use money will keep us out of a lot of this, but it's something to consider.
Something to think about.
Thank you for tuning in to Put Your Family First podcast. My name is Calvin T. Mann. God bless you and encourage me. I'm young. Peace.
Yeah, if you reflect back on how much money you've